All right, we're going to get rocking and rolling. I appreciate everyone joining us for our second live demo. We're going to try to do these every single week. Hopefully, we get a good group of people in like last week, but more importantly, we are recording this and this can be shared with anyone that else in your organization or anyone else you might feel would want to benefit from seeing the demo. So look out for those emails after the fact for the recording. If you guys have questions throughout the journey here, please ask in the chat. Drop in some questions. Please don't be a stranger. I apologize ahead of time. I got a bit of a cough here, so if I cough a few times, don't worry. I am okay. Let's start out. So, Ship Angel, we've built this system very much with enterprise technology forward facing. And so we have SSO built in right from the front. So, whether your organization is using Google, Microsoft, or any other SSO platform, we can connect in with your platform that you're using today to help you guys get signed in and ensure the security aspect of the Ship Angel platform is respected. Once you log into the system, what's really useful here is each user can define what their landing page is. And so my landing page here is on the search section. But each user, depending on the role that they're playing and the part of the organizations that they work in, they can have the landing page that they need. And I'll show you some of these tabs later, but you could land in your My Routes section. You can land in the dashboard section. There's even the opportunity to land in your document section, all of which I'll show to you guys here very shortly. What's super useful though in the beginning is we have really robust settings and users and roles built into the platform. And so you can come in, you can really change a lot of your settings based on the user that's using it. And so I might have a USD setting, but another user might have a Euro setting, or they might have a setting for the currency that they think or use locally. Additionally, you can change a lot of the settings around the default market type. And so I'm going to show you in a little bit how you can compare your rates against the market, the container market of comparison to your rates. And so in here, you could change whether I'm looking at a short-term or a long-term rate. There's a lot of different settings you can change in here, but additionally, we have the idea of roles. And so different members of the teams globally could be working inside the platform, and you could want to tailor the visibility to certain things, but also exclude certain aspects of the platform. And so some users may not need benchmarking data. They may not need CO2 data. They may not need schedule data. We can exclude that third-party data that we bring in so that they only see the stuff that you guys need them to see. Additionally, inside the account, there's a lot of information that you guys can get about the notifications. You can set up company settings. We have regions. And so if you wanted to regionalize certain parts of the countries that you're shipping to or from, we can set up different regions. And this is an example of a US West Coast region, which would include all of the West Coast ports. We can set up, a lot of different things to help make your guys' lives a lot easier as you use the platform. The core of the Ship Angel platform is our search function. And so this fundamentally replaces all of the Excel documents. It replaces all of the internal spreadsheets, all of the sort of internal systems that people are using and have spread out across an organization. It's all now centralized inside the Ship Angel platform to allow me to search any origin, any destination, whether it be a door move, a port to port move, a rail move. All of these different combinations are now sitting inside the Ship Angel platform, and they're all searchable. And so from here, you can come in and I can type out Shanghai, and I could search for any rate from Shanghai. I could type out the port code for Shanghai. We use UN low codes inside of our system, and most ocean carriers also use port codes. And so you can use that port code if you have it memorized. Additionally, we can also search by countries. And so I could say, find me all of my rates out of China to all of my rates to the maybe we want to pick United States. And you can find all of these rates on this lane. Additionally, you could search for multiple origins. And so maybe you don't know necessarily what you're going to ship from. Think of like your sourcing material. Maybe I even leave it blank and say, I know I'm going to ship some stuff to Los Angeles. Where can I source this from? What's my most inexpensive option at origin to bring some stuff to Los Angeles? Here, I'm going to type in Shanghai to New York City, and I'm going to search and show you guys what the system looks like once you've searched. Once the results have populated, what you're going to see here is all of the four results that come from Shanghai to New York City. And so these are all of the rates that I have, or in this scenario, our fictitious shipper called Banana Cola. If you guys are ever interested in looking into Banana Cola in more detail, you can actually go to banana-cola.com. It's an actual website that we've created. It's a little bit interesting to be able to create websites for our fake customers, but it's pretty a little bit of an interesting fact. What you can do here is scroll through your results. And so I got results for CMA from Shanghai to New York. I have results from Hapag Lloyd, Shanghai to New York, MSC, and also have Hanjins, which is there for a reason and I can explain later. But you can see all of your results very quickly. Additionally, you can filter down to less results very quickly as well. And so maybe I want to filter down to just my CMA CGM results. I could filter down by vendor. You can also filter down by shipper. And so if you have different business units working inside the platform, you can very quickly filter down to a business unit. We can start to filter down to origin cities. And so if you have different origin cities that you're coming out of, whether it be, picking up in New Jersey and loading in New York City, we can start to filter down to addresses and locations. We can also start to look at equipment type, pretend you have dry or reefer. There's a lot of different filters to help you more quickly get down to the singular result that you were looking for. I'm going to filter down to just one result for simplicity's sake. I'm going to start to run you guys through the rate card here. And so in here, we have a lot of information. We have when the rate was last uploaded. We have the validity of this rate. And so when the rate is valid from and to. And we also have MQC information built in here. And so most ocean carrier contracts come, or every ocean carrier contract comes with an MQC. And so that minimum container quantity that you need to move is represented here in this bar. And right now we're saying, hey, we're over our MQC. And so it's a good bit of information sometimes to understand, am I under, am I over, am I tracking on pace or not? And so that information is listed here as well for you. Down here in the rate card, we get information around the service. And so if you know which service you have allocations for, or you know what service that you're supposed to be riding on for this carrier, we can list that out here for you here. Additionally, you're getting transit time information. What this 28 days represents here is what CMA is telling you as your vendor, what is your transit time? It's 28 days on this lane. Next to it is a Ship Angel logo, and what we're doing is we're providing schedule data that shows you what the market for CMA is based on actual sailings. And so based on actual sailings, we're telling you CMA CGM from Shanghai to New York is actually closer to 29 days on average. And this is viewable here inside the schedules tab in the rate card. In here, you're going to see multiple services, but you're also going to see transit times and ETDs and ETAs. And so if I needed to actually move on this lane, based on the available services, what is the transit times and what are those vessels? To give us an idea, is my transit time, is it slow or fast? A lot of times, when you have a rate on an ocean carrier, they'll tell you the transit time. You have to run with that transit time to build out your proper lead times and then hopefully ship on that and ensure you get timely delivery when you need it. What we're giving you is third-party data to vet that transit time and say, you know what, if 28 days is on top of the extra 14 that I use to give my total lead time, I might want to add a couple days extra because the market seems to be a little bit longer of a transit than what CMA is telling me or what any carrier may or may not tell you. And this isn't always the case. Sometimes they're faster or slower, but you can validate that transit time inside the Ship Angel platform. Additionally, here on the bottom left-hand corner of the screen, you're going to see the all-in pricing. And so the total 20-foot rate, the total 40-foot, the total 40 high cube, etc. You're going to have the ability to very quickly see those all-in pricing. And what's nice is inside our surcharge tab, you can start to validate that all-in pricing. What is my charges per container? What are the securities? What are the bunker? What's the all-in number equate to give you an idea of what makes up that puzzle? There's different pieces to that puzzle, different surcharges, and how does it roll up into my total cost? Additionally, on the front of the rate card, on the right-hand side, we also give you access to charts and graphs to give you an idea of what does your rate look like over time. And so right now we're looking at a 40 high cube non-hazardous market average rate on the long-term market for the last 3 months. I can toggle this to the last 6 months, and we can see based on where my CMA CGM rate is in green here, how has it trended over time. And so we can pick certain dates along the axis here and find, hey, but March 1st, my rate was 2679 all in. Additionally, we give you access to third-party benchmark data. And so now I can say, hey, not only was my rate $2,679, but it was also 5.5% lower than the market average at that time. And so what's useful is we also bring in that market average data. And so now you can start to understand, how does my rate compare against the market? And so based on the rates that this fictitious shipper has for the first part of July, we can say they're over a quarter% better, 25% better than where the market average rate is. And so you can validate your rates. Are they competitive or are they not? And this third party data is another example of how inside the Ship Angel platform, you can start to understand what your rate means. Is it fast? Is it slow? Is it competitive or is it not competitive? And you can really start to validate your rates and understand a lot more about your rates and your providers. Additionally, inside the rate card, you get access to demurrage and detention. If we had demurrage and detention available for this vendor, it would be listed out here. I'm going to quickly filter down and go to a different vendor that I know we have some D&D for. And so you can see here it's listed out as 21 days detention free time at destination. Same thing with origin. And additionally, if you had charges, once the free time does expire, you might have negotiated within your contracts. Once the free time expires, I have a $20 per day, $50 per day, $100 per day charge. We can also list that out here. So it'll say detention, you have 21 days, and when it expires, you have, X dollars per day cost otherwise. Inside the rate cards, we also have the ability to provide CO2 data comparisons. If CO2 is important to you and your business, we can turn this on so that you could look at a Hapag-Lloyd and an MSC, and you maybe could make a decision on who you want to use based on simply the CO2 cost. This is inside our search function, and this was searching for ocean rates. Additionally, inside the Ship Angel platform, you can also search for air rates as well as trucking rates. And so inside the air section, we can also do a similar search. And down here at the bottom, it's kind of useful. You can see your recent searches, but I'm going to do the same search that I recently did from Bangkok to LAX. When I do this search, what we're going to do is similar to the ocean section, we're going to get all of our results listed out on this lane for rates that we have. And so I can see very quickly, I have rates via DSV on this lane. And what we're giving you here is on the bottom of this rate card is now the various weight brackets of what are my rates per kg based on these weight brackets. And you can very quickly validate, the different costs for this provider. Maybe I could scroll through and decide if I want to, look at in comparison to another provider. You can see, hey, in this scenario, DSV is a little bit cheaper based on these weight brackets. Also, you're going to start to get, some transit time information, some departure day information. We additionally have the surcharge section, similar to how we saw it in ocean. What's useful here is we now are able to break this down in more detail on the different sections of air freight. And so air freight is very much defined as origin charges, destination charges, and air freight. There's really three categories here. And so we can break out the air freight charge section and understand what are all the costs that lead up to that total $10.03 based on a 45 kilo shipment. And we can start to see how those break out on the different origins and destinations. And similar to origin costs, if we had origin costs, we could see them broken out. If we had destinations costs, we could also see these broken out, ultimately leading up to a total at these weight breaks. At 100 kilos, my total cost to move this is going to be $1,003. Additionally, as you go up the weight breaks, you see the dollars and cents change, but you also see that cost per kg. And so a lot of companies, specifically in the commodity sector, want to understand what's my cost per kg. And you can do that here and still understand very quickly what's my cost per kilogram. Additionally, inside the air section, we give you the ability to put in the chargeable weight. And so if you know you're going to do a shipment that's 2005 kilos, what the system's going to do is now give you on these rate cards on the bottom left, based on exactly 2005 chargeable weight kilos, you're going to spend just over $14,500 on this shipment if you were to use DSV from Bangkok to LA. And so you get a really granular picture of your rate cards for air. But in some cases, you may not even need to get that granular. You could simply do an origin Bangkok, destination LA, 2005 kg, click search, and maybe I just look at this total number. This is all I care about because this is all I need to validate is which provider should I be using based on 2005 kilos. Based on this calculation, we can see 14,000 is less than 21,000. I should be using DSV on this lane. Additionally, on the right, we have that similar graph that we were looking at earlier. And here is where you can start to also understand, is my freight rate on this air freight lane competitive or not versus the market? And so what we're seeing here, let me change it to the greater than 1,000 section, and maybe more interesting for us based on the search that we've done. We can now start to understand this rate, is it higher or lower than the market of this lane? And so in the blue, we're also seeing third-party benchmark data to understand, is my rate competitive or is it not competitive? And you can do that very much inside the ShipAngel platform for ocean and air freight. Additionally, we have a trucking section as well. And so any trucking, both North America or what I would call domestic, I'm in here in America, so I call it domestic transportation. But we can also do European trucking, whether it be international, any origin and any destination on the globe, we can present it inside the ShipAngel platform. So I'm going to quickly I'm going to repeat this search, Boston to San Francisco. And in here, we're going to get, the different results that this fictitious shipper has from Boston to San Francisco. I have one result. It's a freight move with DSV. And I know very quickly my total cost is just over $9,000. Additionally, as you can start to see the surcharges and how they're broken out. What's that fuel cost? Is there any hidden administrative costs that they're charging for me? And additionally, what's nice is as the fuel costs change, most trucking rates are following that DOE average. As those DOE averages change week to week, we can also represent those changes inside the platform. So you can start to see, how is my rate changing over time? What is the fuel cost doing and how is it changing? And so ocean, air, and trucking can live inside the ShipAngel platform for all of your international and domestic shipments. Inside, the next section I want to show you very quickly, and this one's a little bit difficult to represent in a demo, but we have what ShipAngel is doing on the back end to make everyone's life easier is we're processing all of your rate sheets and rate uploads that come in. And so today, how your process might look is you could be negotiating over email. You could be negotiating in any sort of third-party negotiation tender site. All of those rate sheets that you're collecting for whether it be a tender opportunity or just a singular quote are living somewhere in your email or somewhere in your other systems. When you send those rate sheets to ShipAngel to process, all you need to do is negotiate and then forward that email. And so as a customer, we would set you up with an email address that you would forward your rate sheets to ShipAngel. We're going to process all of those rate sheets using our proprietary AI system that we've developed and trained. It's something that we utilize internally. It's not an external AI system. It's something we've built internally. And we process all of your rate sheets, PDFs, Excel documents, emails with numbers and values, API, EDI data that you may or may not get. However it's presented to you, we will then pull out all the relevant data points, the origins, the destinations, the free times, the surcharges, the base rates, the validities, the contract validities, all of that information we will pull out. We essentially translate it into what we would call the ShipAngel system and format. And then that becomes viewable for you, the shipper, inside the ShipAngel platform. And so you no longer need to create that internal spreadsheet of all your rates. You no longer need to translate your DSV and your CMA and your Kuehne+Nagel spreadsheets and rates into a singular format. We will do all of that processing for you, and we're going to do it in hours, not days and not weeks. We're going to do it in hours. And we have a KPI of 24 hours from when the rate sheet is sent, it'll be processed and it'll be sitting inside your ShipAngel platform for viewable globally. What's useful is that process timeline can take as little as just a few hours. And so the practical aspect here is at breakfast, you're negotiating a new rate. You click forward, you send it to ShipAngel. By the time you even think about heating up your lunch that day while you're at work, it's all going to be processed and visible to the entire organization globally. Additionally, inside our document section, you're always going to have visibility to all of those rate sheets when they've come in. And so we can go back in the search results here to older rate sheets and we can see, which vendors were uploaded, what are the validity dates of those uploads, and when were they uploaded, and what modality were they, ocean, truck, or air. Excuse me. Additionally, inside of our document section is the ability for you to use what's called our amendment guard feature. And so everything can go directly to the platform as it gets processed, but also we can put things in a sort of review stage for you to review all of the quotes, all of the opportunities that you're trying to decide who you're ultimately going to go with. You then have the ability to view these inside amendment guard. And so when I click into this rate sheet that got uploaded, what I'm going to see is a whole bunch of lanes listed out with equipment sizes and the pricings. The most important feature here is I'm going to scroll all the way to the right to the total all-in prices section. And from here, I'm going to filter by dollar change. And so now what I'm seeing here is based on the dollar change, this CMA rate sheet in comparison to the active CMA rates that I have. And so this vendor CMA is being compared against the rates they already have. We can say these rates have gone up. And so the dollar change and the percent change column can give you an idea very quickly. Did these match what CMA was supposed to be offering me? Did this match what CMA agreed to in our negotiations? Or very easily, does this match what the market is doing? And so I have all the rates from all my different shippers. I'm able to validate them throughout the ShipAngel platform. But additionally, are these rates going up or down? And in this scenario, all of them are going up. But this could be expected or this could be unexpected. And if it's unexpected, you could not publish this to the rest of your organization. And so we could take all of these rates instead of clicking approved, which then gives the rest of your organization visibility to these rates. We might reject these or we might keep them in pending because I need to go back and have a conversation with CMA and say, hey, excuse me, $120 increase wasn't what we expected. We expected a decrease month over month over previous rates from Q2 to Q3. And so our amendment guard gives you that ability to validate new rates that come in to understand how do they compare against my active rates for this provider. Additionally, this one actually came up just this past week from a customer of ours who wanted to validate non-incumbents. And so you think of the trucking world is where this happens a lot. You might have a trucker who's doing certain lanes, and you want to compare a non-incumbent and say, how do they compare against them? Inside our amendment guard feature, we can also compare these against other documents and other providers' rates. And so the practical here is imagine CMA is a non-incumbent, and I get rates from them, and I want to compare them against a different provider on a particular lane. I might say, how do they compare against my Hapag-Lloyd rates? And what we're now looking at is CMA rates in comparison to the Hapag rates. Here are the differences in comparison. They're a little bit higher. They're marginally higher by dollar and percentage basis. What this is going to do is give you that ability to validate new rate sheets, new providers, new quotes, or various quotes. How do they compare against my rates that I have today on these lanes? And additionally, how do they compare against the other vendors that I have rates on various lanes? I'm going to quickly take a pause here and see if we have any questions from anyone in the chat. Um, I don't think we have any questions, but if you guys have questions, please ask away in the webinar chat. I want to hear some questions or thoughts. Even if you just want to say hi, don't be afraid to drop a note in and say hello. The next section I want to touch on briefly is our ocean rate section. This is what I often call our greatest hits section. And so you as a user on the individual user level can save the most important lanes that are important to you. And so I might have a list of, in this scenario, I have 6 lanes. I could list all, say I have 100 lanes globally. I could list all 100 lanes here and have visibility to all of them. It's up to you and the lanes that you want to add. And you can quickly add lanes and you can quickly remove lanes that may be no longer relevant for you. Like this Yangpu lane, maybe I don't need it anymore. I can very much quickly remove it, and now it's gone from my sort of greatest hits section. What you're going to always get is the ability to understand what's my most cost-effective rate, what's my fastest rate, and how does it compare against the market overall. And so I very quickly, from the time it takes me to log in to click on my routes, could maybe be 7 to 10 seconds. And I could quickly validate Antwerp to New York City. My rate's 807. The market is almost 900. I'm in a good position. Maybe I also want to find out some more information. I can click on this rate and I can start to look at this lane in more detail as I would inside the search section. But this very much can give you the ability to quickly look at your results and understand what your rates are. Additionally, at the top here, I can type in Shanghai and I can start to narrow these results down. So I only want to see my Shanghai results. I can very quickly validate rates from Shanghai to various places in the world. How do my rates compare? In this scenario, my rate is below, wonderful. My rate is below, wonderful. I'm below market, great, wonderful. Let's move on. Imagine you have 100 listed here. You could type in, a keynote for maybe just New York, and you could find out very quickly my New York rates. My routes is customizable for every user. Their login will set them up with their specific My Rate section, all of which is viewable by them and by you every time you log in. It's your area, your section, your login. The last section I'm going to touch on very briefly here as we round out to the end of the demo is our dashboard section. So what's useful here is I can now ocean, air, and very soon we're going to have this available for trucking, is I can see what rates do I have? In this scenario, I have 67 active rates, which is 37 less than last month. Maybe that's a key idea for me to go check and see, hey, something must have expired that I didn't renew, or they didn't send me a new amendment for this month. I can go check on that. Additionally, you're going to know who are your rates with, your various vendors, who do you have rates with. In this scenario, we have a lot of rates with a couple different vendors, but it's kind of spread out across my various vendor portfolio, and you can sort of see high level what's going on. Additionally, at the bottom of the screen here, you're going to get the ability to search a origin and a destination. And I'm going to be able to graphically view my rates on this lane over time. And so I can go in here and I can select a couple different vendors and I can understand how do these rates compare based on these vendors over the course of time. So once this loads, I'll be able to show you what's going on. A little slow today. I think my neighbors are off of school for the summer, so they're over there playing Fortnite. So we got CMA, let's add in an MSC and a ONE. Now what I'm getting is a visual representation of, in this case, CMA and MSC. We don't have any ONE rates. Let me add in HAPAG. I can see based on these providers on this lane, how do they compare against each other? And so CMA is the lowest, HAPAG is the next lowest, then MSC, all of which are below the market average. So I very quickly can validate on a singular lane, what are my providers? What are their costs? And how have they trended over time? Especially how have they trended in comparison to each other? You can do that in our search function, but you have to sort of scroll through and look at the individual rate cards. Here inside the dashboard section, you get that ability to view a singular lane, a singular graph to understand what's going on with my various providers. That's all the time we have today for our live demo. I'm really excited to hopefully talk to some of you in the future. If you have more questions, if you want a more deeper dive in the ShipAngel platform, please reach out to us. You can reach out to me at andrew@shipangel.com, or you can reach out to any of our other team members. But we really appreciate you guys taking the time to learn a little bit about ShipAngel. If you have questions, don't be a stranger, and we look forward to taking you on the journey here shortly with your rates and your systems. Thank you, everyone. You have a great day, and we'll talk soon.